Hello and welcome to Politics Today, reaching you live from our global headquarters here in Lagos. I'm Jeffrey Uzoma. It's almost the middle of the month ahead of the Yuletide, and even though the elections are not over or are over at the polls, it appears political activities will end on the high in parts of the country, and Channels Television will be here and there to bring you up to speed on whatever is happening in the world of politics. Well, tonight will be an interesting one because we're covering everything across board as much as possible to bring you some great conversations. And one of the conversations we'll be bringing to you is with a rare voice as far as Rivers State is concerned, which has to do with the man who ran the state in 1992 to 1993 before that democracy was botched. Chief Rufus Adda-George will be joining us tonight to talk about the situation in Rivers State. He's a rare voice, and so it's important we listen to the elder statesman. Well, before all of that, let's tell you that the National Assembly, something happened there today at the joint session of the Committee on Petroleum and Gas. They were quite unhappy over the absence of the Ministers of State for Petroleum. The ministers failed to show up for their budget defense session and rather sent permanent secretary to the ministry to represent them. But the lawmakers refused to accept the representation, insisting that nobody will undermine the powers of the National Assembly. And now the ministers have been given another opportunity to appear on Monday next week.
Yesterday, we shifted this meeting. Today again, we've not seen them. And I don't think it's good for our democracy. And I don't think it's good for us. We cannot keep shifting. Maybe they are not ready.
In our view, and from the inactions of these two ministers of state in the oil and gas sector, it's like they are taking the presidential instructions for granted. They are also taking the sanctity of this institution, where the sovereignty of the people lies in, also for granted. I understand the permanent secretary is here. Fine, the permanent secretary and some of the officials are here. But that is not enough. A permanent secretary of the ministry is only but a civil servant. He is not a member of the Federal Executive Council.
Now, staying in the nation's capital, the Minister of Power, Ms. Adebayo Adelabo, is assuring Nigerians that a workable framework to guide the proper running of the entire value chain of the electricity industry in Nigeria will soon be unveiled by the federal government. The minister said this at the closing ceremony of a 3-day retreat in Abuja. According to him, the framework will also ensure that people are held accountable for their various responsibilities in line with the performance bond signed by the ministers with the president to benchmark performances of key sectors, which is considered imperative to President Bola Tinubu's renewed hope agenda. And let's tell you that some things are going on in Edo State, where Governor Godwin Obaseki believes that the opposition plans to use money to woo the Edo people in next year's November governorship election. Governor Obaseki, however, says he is confident that the opposition will not be a threat, as the ruling People's Democratic Party has done well enough over the last 7 years in the state to continue in power. Governor Obaseki made the comments after swearing in 9 special advisors across the federal constituencies of the state at the government house in Benin City, the state capital.
We waited till now to complete what we've set out to do, so that there is evidence. So our politics is politics of truth, where we say we did something and we can show you what we did. It's not a politics of lies, where people create phantoms and want people to believe the lies they are selling to them. But more importantly, the reason why I decided to bring you in now is we are finishing the game. You are the finishing team. Edo must continue to be PDP. We have turned our party around in Edo State. PDP controls Edo at the ward levels, at the local government level, and at the state level. And we will demonstrate it in the polls. We know the strategy of the opposition. They want to bring money. They want to bring people with billions of naira to challenge us. We did it before, we will do it again. Money cannot buy Edo. Can money buy us? So no matter the amount of money they are putting together to come and purchase this state, it is not going to happen. Not with you people on the watch.
Well, we're tracking all of that as it's happening everywhere. But I did tell you that a rare voice has actually weighed in into what's going on in Rivers State since this political crisis ensued. I'm talking about the former governor of the state and an elder statesman who is joining us from Rivers State, the Port Harcourt, the Rivers State capital, Chief Rufus Adda George. Good evening, sir, for joining us on the program, sir.
Good evening.
It's good to see you, sir. I'm sure a lot of people haven't seen you in a very long while, and it's good to see you, hale and hearty. So thank you so much for having time to come on the program today. So let's just get straight to it, sir. A quick one. Your general assessment, I know you released a statement, you have made your comments, but I'm sure you have a lot to say as far as Rivers politics is concerned and what is going on now. I would like to get your general assessment of what is happening in Rivers State.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, sir. You can go ahead, sir. I said you could, just to give us an overview of your impression of what is happening in the state. Can you hear me, sir?
I'm hearing you now.
Okay. So let me just repeat my question. I was saying that a lot is happening in the political space. What is your immediate reaction to what's going on in the state?
Well, my reaction is we are in a state of shock, surprise at what is going on. We felt it's a matter that could have easily been handled within the house. So we're a bit surprised that it's going up the way it is going. We're still hopeful that we'll be able to handle it.
So one will wonder, as an elder statesman and as one who has been at the saddle in the leadership of the state, what specific effort, if you may, sir, that you've made maybe to reach out to other former governors to intervene, maybe former governors Peter Odili, to see whether there can be some level of intervention? I don't know whether you've reached out and what you're considering to do as a next move.
We are hopeful that with the experience we have and with the knowledge of the persons involved, the former governors will be able to speak to them, prevail on them, to see reasons why this case must be handled and tackled soonest.
Now, besides talking to people that have held the governorship position in the state, the key players, the people at the very eye of the storm, so I don't know whether you've been able to reach out to the governor of the state, Siminalayi Fubara, or his predecessor, the FCT minister, Nyesom Wike, over what is happening in the state. Have you been able to reach him? What are they telling you?
Well, when this issue blew up at the end of October, we made approaches to reach out at them, some of them, we were successful in 1 or 2 cases. But the most important thing was that with the intervention of the president at that time, it was brought under control, and we are hoping that that will last, that will be durable, and will give us a chance to build on that position to ensure that we had a peaceful settlement. But unfortunately, in the midst of it, statements were issued, actions taken that tended to blow up the whole issue again. And we are still hoping that we'll be able to contain it before it erupted to this stage. But we are still hopeful. We made efforts and we reached out at the governor, but we've not been able to have a personal contact with the minister of Federal Capital Territory. We're still making that effort.
Sir, one of the things that a lot of people do not know is exactly what the issue is. It's looking more like it's an exclusive preserve of Governor Siminalayi Fubara and the FCT Minister Nyesom Wike, which is, a lot of people believe is the reason why all of this fallout is happening. So you just said that you've not been able to reach out to the FCT Minister. When you spoke with the governor, what exactly did he say is this altercation all about?
Well, we are always in constant touch with people who reach out. We personally made efforts and we reached out to one of them, and had discussions, real discussions, and we are hoping as peacemakers to be able to reach out at both of them and discuss privately, listening with each and every one of them before bringing them together. That has not been quite possible, but we're still making effort.
I was also wondering, are there proposals that the governor is putting on the table? I know you may not want to, divulge all the details of this, but are there proposals at least that the governor is putting out to say, look, for there to be a truce, this and this has to happen? Have you heard anything like that from the governor?
Not of recent anyway.
Sir, you ran the state in 1992 all the way to 1993. Everybody knows what happened that time. And the Rivers politics is split along the lines of what they call the upland and the riverine. And this escalation, the fear is that this escalation is towing in that direction. For the people in the riverine area who are agitating and the job people, what are elder statesmen like you saying to them at this very moment, who are seeing this like there may be an attempt to shortchange them in the position of leadership in the state now that it is quote unquote their turn?
Well, there could be or could have been a bit of security threats, here and there. So we're all very cautious in handling the situation.
All right, so I'm just another question for you. Do you think that from what you've observed and your conversations, because I'm sure as an elder statesman, there are things you're privy to that the general public will not be privy to. Do you think that there are fifth columnists, non-state actors, perhaps, who are behind the scenes stoking some of what is going on, and everybody is looking at just two individuals? Do you have that suspicion? And if there are, what action do you think should be taken to quell this crisis?
Unfortunately, we're not quite getting the patients.
Okay, let me take it again. I'm saying that, sir.
It's not quite audible. It's not quite audible.
Okay, can you hear me now, sir? Hello, sir. Can you hear me, sir?
Not hearing at all.
Okay.
Not quite audible.
Okay. I just want to say, can you hear me clearer now? I've raised my voice. Can you hear me clearer now?
All right.
Okay. I was asking, sir, from your conversation and your observation, do you think there are fifth columnists who are at the fringes pushing all of this, and what can be done to stop them from escalating the situation? From your and your observation. All right, Your Excellency, I must thank you for your time, and thank you so much for coming on the program. As I did tell the audience, it's a privilege to have you here. Quite a rare opportunity because we've not seen you for a while. We're happy you're hail and hearty. So thank you so much for coming out to weigh in on the issues in Rivers State. As much as possible, continue to reach out to get your thoughts on the developing story. Thank you so much, sir, for coming on the program. I was talking to the former governor of Rivers State, who was governor in 1992 all the way to 1993, Chief Rufus Ada-George, and his thoughts about what's happening in Rivers politics. But for now, let's bring you some of our political roundup stories.
Vice President Kashim Shettima has hinted of plans by the President Bola Tinubu administration to address what he terms the historical inadequacies of policymaking in the country. Senator Shettima, who represented the President at the 2023 Comptroller General of Customs annual conference held in Lagos, says lack of a comprehensive data impedes the ability to make informed governance decisions, not just in Nigeria, but across Africa.
We aspire to position Nigeria as the preferred destination for all stakeholders involved in export and import activities overseen by the Nigerian Customs Service.
Rivers State Governor Siminalayi Fubara has signed the 2024 appropriation bill into law. The ceremony, which was held at the governor's office, was witnessed by the Deputy Governor, Professor Ngozi Odu, members of the State Executive Council as well. Governor Fubara, in his address, says the estimated 800 billion naira tagged budget of renewed hope, consolidation and continuity will be well implemented to provide critical infrastructure like the second phase of the landmark Trans-Calabari Road and meet the socio-economic needs of the people.
That this administration have the best interests of our people. It is our people-oriented administration.
The governor of Imo State, Senator Hope Uzodinma, is urging political class in Nigeria, irrespective of their party affiliation, not to play politics with the recent incident in Kaduna State.
Thank you very much.
The governor, who was speaking during the launch of the Armed Forces Remembrance Day celebration emblem at the government house in Owerri, calls on Nigerians to support and encourage the Nigerian military, who has been in the forefront of defending the territorial integrity of the country.
Pray to God, God Almighty, who is the author and finisher of our faith, to continue to intercede, to be able to get the insecurity incidences in Nigeria to abate.
Oyo State Governor Seyi Makinde has declared that his administration will create a different Oyo State where citizens are law-abiding in spite of the many challenges they are faced with. The governor also said that his administration would soon come up with legislation to restore order and sanity across the state. Governor Makinde stated these during the inauguration of the Oyo State Advisory Council led by Chief Bolaji Ayanride at the governor's office in Ibadan, the Oyo State capital.
We have to dare to create an Oyo State that is different from whatever we're looking at nationally. This must be a state of law and order.
In Yobe State, Governor Maimala Buni has given approval for the State Independent Electoral Commission to conduct local government elections on May the 25th, 2024 across the 178 electoral wards of the state. The chairman of the commission, Mr. Maman Mohammed, stated this at a stakeholders meeting in Damaturu. According to him, the forms for chairmanship position will be sold at 300,000 naira, while that of the vice chairmanship and councillors will be sold at 250,000 and 200,000 naira respectively. Governor Buni approved May 2024 for the local government elections.
Now, there's a reason why it's called Politics Today. It is because wherever politics is happening, we will track it and bring you the latest development. And we just spoke with the former governor of Rivers State, Chief Rufus Ada George, and now being joined by a former special advisor, media and publicity, to the former vice president, Mr. Laolu Akonde, is joining us from our Abuja studio. Mr. Laolu Akonde, thank you so much, Mr. Akonde, for joining us on the program.
Good evening, George. Jeffrey, sorry.
Thank you so much for coming on the program and for your patience. My mind just went back to some of the interventions during the Muhammadu Buhari administration in the Niger Delta region, where then the vice president that you work closely with was quite instrumental in going to have conversation and how to bring peace in the area. And the way this is going, if it is not properly managed, people are afraid that things will escalate beyond measure and we may have a situation in our hands. I wouldn't know if you were in those rooms and where those conversations held in the Niger Delta or in the State House concerning issues that border on security, because things like this can snowball into such situation. And if you were to weigh in right now from your expertise with working with the presidency on what is happening in Rivers State, first, your quick impression and what you think can be done before we go to a broader conversation on this.
Yeah, thank you. I think the most obvious point to make about what is happening in Rivers State is that it's very disappointing, you know, and that is being measured, you know, about it. Now, look, a lot of people had significant admiration, you know, and quite a bit of respect, you know, for the FCT minister. You know, just like you referred to a number of times, you know, I have been in the room when the vice president went there representing the president. And you can tell very easily that Wike was just the kind of guy that gets things done, you know, and he got a reputation, and he was called Mr. Projects, and, you know, so there is quite a bit of political regard that you have to give to Wike. Quite frankly, I think in this country today, after the president, you know, Nyesom Wike is the most prominent politician of the day. So when somebody has attained that level of political relevance, one of the things that it means is that you really have to carry yourself with a lot of grace, with a lot of measured management of the expectations around you. So it is disappointing that the FCT minister is not managing his own anointed governor, clearly anointed governor. And the responsibility is more on him than the governor. Now, it is said, you know, in Yoruba language that when two people are fighting, the one is older, the one is younger. Regardless of the facts of the fight, the older one will always be the one to carry the brunt. Because people are going to say that, hey, you are supposed to be the wiser one. So honestly, my first impression, you know, just to answer your point, is that, you know, the fact that Mr. Wike has allowed this to happen, and I'm not saying that the governor has no responsibility, but Mr. Wike is the senior partner in this matter, and it's not good. It's not good for him. Let me just put it like that. It's not a good publicity for Nyesom Wike at all.
From your analytical point of view, people have speculated a lot of things about what the end game is. What do you think this is all about? Because if you look at the mapping and more like the political chess going on, it's like everyone is watching the next person's move and trying to botch. So you see what happened. The lawmakers, we're going to come to that in a moment, they were complaining about maybe high-handedness, abuse of power on the governor and all of that. And then all of a sudden, something happened, the house divided into two, the place got burned, and before we could say Jack, we woke up one day and they've defected 27 of them, and a few days later there was a court judgment, a court order, ex parte though, that recognized a Ihie faction. And by the next day, bulldozers were out, bringing down the assembly complex. The government gave the reason to be structural issues. And so the House of Assembly, now made up of 4 people, were sitting, presented a budget. 24 hours later, the budget was signed. And then today, before we could say Jack, a member of cabinet has resigned. And then the members who had defected held their own sitting, start amending local government laws that would take powers out of the hands of the governor to be able to dissolve local government. What do you think is going on in this game?
Jeffrey, it's a lot of drama that is happening in Rivers State. It's a lot of drama. Now, and we have to look at it very closely. Now, the place to conclude all of this, you know, and I'm going to come back to the point, but let me just give you the conclusion right away. And at the top of it, Mr. President has to rein in on the situation very clearly. But let's look at the drama. And it's quite, you know, it's the drama of the absurd. So you have a situation where the House of Assembly several weeks back was, you know, I mean, we've had fire bombed, you know, it was arsonist, whatever it is, the place caught fire all over the place. You had a situation where, so that is something, you know, and then you had a situation where the governor, you know, who is supposed to be the chief security officer of the state, was going to go and inspect what happened, you know, and then the governor came out to allege that the police were shooting at him. And then the next thing that happens was that, oh, well, you know, the president intervened and things seemed to calm down, only for us again to wake up this week and have the drama of people in PDP, in the assembly, moving to APC, people in APC, and I think LP, you know, moving to, and even SDP to moving to PDP. And then today, just like you said, we had, of course, you know, the courts weighed into the matter of the assembly, and today the resignation of Professor Zacchaeus Adango was released. And we are even told that the prof had actually resigned in November. If you look at the letter of resignation, it's actually dated November. But of course, I think they were trying to just see whether they could manage things. But clearly, you know, the professor of law just couldn't take, you know, some of these shenanigans anymore. So it's the drama of the absurd. And it is ridiculous because what this means is that the interest of the people of Rivers State, you know, Rivers State is not an ordinary state in this country. The interest of the people of Rivers State has gone down to completely out of the question, because you have these big elephants fighting. So to my point, the president has to come in, and the president has to come in very strongly. I was reading a statement by APC to say that, oh, and I hope that is not true, that, oh, the president intervention is no longer holding. What kind of statement is that? The president has the responsibility to rein in his minister, and the president has the responsibility to talk to the governor. What is going on? You know, so the assembly was burnt, and then suddenly the place is demolished. You know, what happened to the burning? Where is the public report of the arsonist? And then they said, we had some structural defects or damages because of the fire, and then the place is demolished. This is public resources that is just being wasted. You know, and it's just a drama of the absurd. The president must call in both of them and tell them no more.
I wanted to find out from you, because we're running a federation, and I understand that Mr. Nyesom Wike works directly with the president, and then there's a governor, Siminalayi Fubara, on one end. At what point exactly, and what exactly should the president do? I presume you will say it should rein in now, but what exactly would you do you think he should say to them, or specific action the president should take right now to arrest this situation?
Yes, of course, we run a federal government.
Just a moment, if I may. The reason I said that is because he has tried to intervene before. And then rather than things de-escalating, it hit a crescendo. And it's like an increasing crescendo.
Yeah, well, you're right. And to your point, yes, it's a federal system of government whereby the governor is the chief executive officer of the state. Is even recognized as the chief security officer. So the president cannot give instructions to the governor. I understand that perfectly. But at the same time, under our system, when you look at the reins of power, the president is in charge of all the security agencies, in the country. The president is in charge of the DSS. The president is in charge of the police. The president is in charge of the military and other instruments of coercion. So the president is not powerless at all, and he doesn't have to even do too much in terms of whether he has a role to play. The president has a role to play because there are security implications, besides the fact that the welfare of the people of Rivers State has been relegated in all of this drama. There are potential security problems that you have actually even insinuated. So what I think the president needs to do is to bring out the big guns and say, look, I have tried to talk to both of you about this matter, and we thought that we have sorted this matter. Look, we cannot take this anymore. And you guys have to go and sort yourself out. The president, he has enough leverage, Jeffrey.
Yeah, because a lot is going on, which is why we tell our audience it's an unfolding drama. Breaking news just in is that the Commissioner for Works, Mr. Dr. George Kelly Alabo, has resigned. He said the above subject matter resignation as Honorable Commissioner for Works, Rivers State. I hereby resign my appointment as the Commissioner for Works, Rivers State, effective immediately. My decision to resign is anchored on my conscience, personal philosophy, and professional ethics. This decision was taken after deep introspection, and he appreciated the governor for the opportunity. So, Mr. Akonde, that is the situation. Because I wanted to ask that question. Now, this is quite clear why I should ask that question. What kind of cabinet do you think Governor Siminalayi Fubara is sitting over right now? 2 down in 1 day.
It's just more and more and more drama. Now, there's no point, dwelling on speculations, but it would seem that the members of the cabinet might have been likely, the composition of Mr. Fubara's cabinet might have been likely influenced, by Mr. Wike, the godfather, and some of those gentlemen, just find themselves, in the middle of very, precarious relationship between the two of them, and they couldn't take it anymore. Like I said, the Attorney General had actually written the letter of resignation in November. If you look at the letter that is now circulating in the social media, you will see that it was actually dated in November. But I think it was brought down, in the hope that things might sort out. So I know that, we're probably going to see much more drama. But one is hoping that, the voice of reason and the voice of calm can prevail. And it's not just the president alone that should sort this matter. But of course, the president is the one that is in charge of the instrument of force. But we also have people, we have leaders in Rivers State who should speak out and say that, look, this is not what the people of this state deserve. We shouldn't wait until a situation where this becomes something that is completely uncontrollable. Because the truth of the matter is that this can even get worse. So it's important for not just the president, President Tinubu, to take a very strong look on this matter, but the elders in Rivers State. It's good that you brought Mr. Rufus Ada George, a respected politician in the state. who have spoken out. But we need to call people like Dr. Udili, the God who speak out. You know, the other respected leaders in that state, you know, former governors, and the traditional leaders, people should speak out and say, look, we need this thing sorted out. We can't continue like this.
All right, Mr. Akonde, we're going to keep you. We're not done yet. We will switch gears to other conversations. That's why we have you here. And let's say again, there's a breaking news coming in to all our audience right here that the Commissioner for Works in Rivers State, you can see the letter right there on your screen, is the second member of cabinet under Governor Siminalayi Fubara since all of this political crisis started that has resigned. Earlier today, we saw that the Attorney General and Minister of Justice, Professor Zaccheaus Adangor, has resigned and now is being joined by Dr. George Kelly Alabo. So 2 commissioners off the cabinet. What is happening in Rivers State? We'll continue to follow up on that, but when we come back, we'll switch gears to other issues on the show, especially what is going on in the National Assembly as concerning the defense of the budget and what the Appropriation Committee and other committees are witnessing. Guests will be joining us as well, but Mr. Laolo Akonde will still be here. Stay with us. Welcome back. It's still Politics Today right here on Channels Television, broadcasting live from our global headquarters here in Lagos. And we've been talking Rivers politics, but I want to shift gears to what's going on in the National Assembly. I still have my guests with me in our Abuja studios, Mr. Laolo Akonde, who served in the last administration at the federal level as Channels Television analyst. Thank you so much, Mr. Laolo Akonde, for being on the program.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
All right, I also have with me, coming on the program via Zoom, Mr. Paul Alaje, who is an economist. Mr. Alaje, thank you for coming on the program.
Me.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me? I said thank you very much for having me.
I can hear you loud and clear. So let's begin from somewhere. Now, we've seen the budget defense session ongoing at the National Assembly. Mr. Alaje, I want to ask you probably a non-economic question, first and foremost. Why do you think that some officials of government wouldn't want to show up when they are invited? Like what we saw today, they are complaining that the Ministers of State for Petroleum, which is an important ministry, by the way, is the only ministry in the...
Well, first of all, I think there are no consequences for action. The National Assembly over the years have been weakened. So perhaps the way people perceive National Assembly, individuals, when they want to carry out their oversight function, are people you can give brown or white envelopes. As a result, you may not necessarily respect the institution of National Assembly. But I must tell you the truth, if the National Assembly of any country is weak, then you would see that play out in the performance of the country, especially the economy of the country. Because what makes us believe that we are having true democracy is when we have a very strong National Assembly who understand the pulse of the people and is respected by all. This is perhaps one of the reasons why some persons may not show up at National Assembly because, well, they know there is no consequences for action. So, but I must also play the devil's advocate. It's possible that the minister in question is busy. He has a clashing appointment. I think what is right in that circumstance is to have written or to have sent representatives to National Assembly that for that particular date, there are more pressing issues, perhaps with the president or with another high-ranking official that will not make them to be present. But I must say, I haven't mentioned that the interest of Nigeria must come to the fore and must be the first per time, because the appointment of any minister is by extension the representation of the mandate given by the people to their leader, the president of the country, and as a result, those who are representing the nation must bear in mind that whatever ministers do, it must be to the interest of the people and the interest of Nigeria first.
Mr. Akonde, I just want to have your take on this particular non-appearance of ministers, maybe in 30 seconds. You've been around all of this. Your take on it. Why do they not? Why don't they? He's giving play the devil's advocate, but in just 30 seconds, what's going on?
Yeah, so there are two ways to look at it, you know, and that is just taking a broad look. First of all, I think over the years, the National Assembly has not asserted itself. You know, I think Mr. Paul alluded to it. There is the impression, you know, that there are times when some of the folks are more interested in the pecuniary aspect, and there are times that you think that they have not really lived up to the responsibility of the oversight function. That's one side to look at it. And so, if that is true, then there are many of the ministers will not even take them as seriously as they ought to. Now, on the other hand, you know, the ministers also need to understand that they ought to be accountable to the assembly, even though it's indirect. They were appointed by the president, yes, but confirmed by the assembly. And so, to Paul's point, it is important for them to know that budget is one of the most important, responsibility of government, because now you are spending money. So normally, you know, you should have the ministers there. But of course, there may be mitigating circumstances. So for instance, if a minister is not in the country while the budget is going on, and the minister is also attending to equally serious matters of state outside the country, it makes sense. So it depends on, yeah.
Okay, before, Mr. Alaja, I'm coming back to you. But just before that, we just learned that another commissioner has resigned in Rivers State. The Commissioner for Social Welfare and Rehabilitation, Mrs. Inime Aguma, has also resigned. So we have 3 commissioners that have resigned today. Professor Zaccheaus Adango, Commissioner for Justice, Attorney General, Alaba George Kelly, Commissioner for Works, and now Commissioner for Social Welfare and Rehabilitation, Inime Aguma. 3 commissioners that have resigned in Rivers State. So, Mr. Paul, let me come back to you. I'm sure you've been reading reports and seeing the news on the budgets and all of this. So, I don't know what level of scrutiny you expect this lawmaker to subject these spending limits, known as the proposal appropriation bill, given the fact that when Nigerians see some things, they feel quite enraged at some of the numbers they see. They expect the lawmakers to either maybe cut down or cancel or outrightly reject where necessary. Are you seeing what you want to see so far from the feelers you get on those who are trying to look at the appropriation bill on our spending limits?
Well, I must tell you that when you look at the budget itself, it's a budget of overheads and personnel. And you can start from the Ministry of Finance, that has the largest, trillions of naira. Trillions of naira, over 8 trillion out of the 9 trillion plus budgeted for that ministry is going to overheads. And if you ask me, what do I think is the key component of that overhead? Maybe service. After that, you have some amounts going to capital expenditure and the remaining recorded expenditure. 10 ministries are to share over 80% of 2024 budget. 10 ministries. Of the 10 ministries, check out all the 10, from education to health. The larger proportion of this budget is going to recurrent expenditure, especially overheads and personnel costs. So the question is, what component of that budget will go to capital expenditure? So when the National Assembly are querying or questioning ministers or the representative of agency, the question we need to ask is what portion will be going into capital expenditure? And when we say overheads, what does it mean in the real sense? We need to come out by discussing, what exactly we are paying for over and over and over again, apart from personnel costs. And I can mention to you what is obtainable in different parts of the world. I will give you a country in the Middle East that was supposed to have huge personnel. But what they've done is that, for instance, the business registration department, which is equivalent to Corporate Affairs Commission in Nigeria, they've reduced the number of staff that belong to government by over 80%. But they did not sack anybody. directly. So they partner with private sector to run the business, to run registration at a given cost. But all of those people that were working with them, they now started working with the private sector. And they divided them state by state, district by district. The good news is that the delays that is associated with doing business as government and all of those disappear. People who were not filing their annual returns and government don't have capacity to pursue and do all of those reduced. More people were engaged now by private sector. They did the business differently, unlike those who want to just do business because they believe that at the end of the month, whether there is business or not, because of course they are within the government covers, they know their interest to be covered. That is not what is obtainable in countries we want to emulate, in countries we want to be like. One thing we must come to terms with is that the party is over. This is the time for us to drag ourselves up and realize that we don't have the money. In spite of subsidy removal, in spite of devaluation of Naira, we still have to borrow. So why should we be taking over 70%, if you like, over 70% of that budget to recurrent expenditure? So this is what I think the National Assembly members should query. And when you hear some ministers saying that what they have budgeted for them is not sufficient, I think it's a different conversation entirely. If you ask the question, maybe I will respond to that. But I can tell you there are key things to be questioned. For instance, some of the budget, you see that some people just brought this almost the same template of what they've been requesting for. But why would you blame them? Those who want to question them are used to buying the same pattern of vehicles, and it has increased. It has been an upward trajectory over the years. We need to be serious as a nation. We need to conserve the resources that we have. And we should also know that government is doing a lot. We've seen Mr. President moving from one country or the other, trying to win investors. We've seen the central bank trying to see what they can do to boost the foreign reserve. We've seen the Minister of Finance and the coordinating Minister of the Economy trying to see how government revenues can improve, including the man at FRS. Everybody's trying to, but the question is, when you put all of this together and you fetch all of them in a basket that has plenty holes, it will not stand.
Ms. Alaje, we're totally out of time, but I'm going to take 10 seconds from both of you as much as possible. First, I know you mentioned some ministries complaining. Ministry of Justice, for instance, that complained about the 18 billion allocated to them. What do you think is wrong with them complaining of lesser funds for their ministry? 10 seconds. And Mr. Akonde, just a wrap up of your impression of what is expected for this budget in terms of performance next year. 10 seconds each, please. We just have a minute to go. Ms. Alaje, you first.
Okay, so for me, I think that before now, those ministries and agencies of government should have met with the budget office under Mr. Akabuezi before it is presented. Coming to legislature as executive and complaining is a bit worrisome because the legislature has actually not reduced it. So I think it's a bit of no communication, perhaps because the current government is new. Maybe this is why they are having these issues. But I believe that with 6 months going to 7 months, it is sufficient time for those in government to put their hands together and come out in a single one. Remember that fact that some of these things had already been passed at Federal Executive Council. Why is it different when it gets to the legislature for them to look at it? So I think they need to do their primary assignment, which government has not done, as it's evident in the conversation we are seeing from some ministries complaining about what is allotted for them.
All right, brilliant. Mr. Akonde, if you can just do it in 10 seconds, I would really appreciate.
Okay, well, I mean, of course, a lot will depend on the ability of the executive arm of government to actually deliver on the promises in the budget. But today, I was reading a report by Empower Newswire that there has been no allocation to the Save Schools initiative. Zero allocation. We should ask the Ministry of Finance what is going on. This is about protecting secondary school children, especially in the northern states, with all this banditry and terrorism. Not one single kobo has been allocated to the Safe School initiative. Let's ask the minister, what's going on?
Thank you so much, Mr. Laolo Akonde, former spokesperson to Nigeria's vice president, and Mr. Paul Alaje, who joined us from Germany, an economist. Thank you, gentlemen, for your thoughts on the program. I really appreciate, and we really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on the program.
Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Well, that's it on the program. We'll continue to monitor and follow up developments across the country in the world of politics. Thanks for your time and, of course, your usual company. I'm Jeffrey Uzanga. God bless Nigeria.